I got it. All right. What's up, Sid?
Hello.
Hello, sir. Good
How
day,
are you
sir.
doing?
Doing rather well, thank you. Hello, Jan King.
Hello,
Craft the
everybody out there.
largest event. Yeah. Gonna get some comments posted up here. Say hello to everybody. What's up, Mary Beth? Good
Hey,
evening.
Mary Beth.
Guys, we are streaming live here on the Midgard Musings YouTube channel and Facebook, and also we got Sid here from Inner Demon Media, who was kind enough to stream on a
We're
couple of your
streaming
platforms too.
we're streaming on the Inner Demon Media page, and we're streaming on my page as well. And I shared it out to some of my groups.
Sweet, man. Well, we got people just rolling in left and right. What's up, Taylor R? What's up, Michael?
Hello.
Hail and hello. Yes. Hey, John. What's up? Our Florida John man, Florida man in the
Evening,
house.
Jasmine.
Hello, Jasmine. Good to see you. And we got Blake here from Skull That Works. What's up?
Hello.
Hail and hello, everybody. If you guys don't know Sid here, this guy, he is the host behind the weekly Talking with Heathen show with Papa Olafson. He runs the Inner Demon Media productions page, I guess. Right? You do a bunch of stuff in the music scene, music industry,
Music
getting the word out
industry.
there.
What's up, Derek?
Oh, hey, Derek. Yeah,
How
he
are you
does
doing,
kick
buddy?
ass. I concur, man. So yeah, guys, if for all of my listeners or followers here that are catching this live, Sid's been on the show, been on my podcast a time or two, and I've in turn been on the Talking with Heathen show a couple of times, and he was kind enough to. I kind of put the word out, like, hey guys, I'm streaming live on Friday. Anybody, some of my friends and stuff, you guys want to come and hang out? And Sid's like, yeah, sure, I'll come hang out for a bit.
Why not? You don't want to miss the opportunities to fellowship with people.
Yeah, man. And speaking of fellowship, like this is of course this is great, but in just a couple of weeks time now, we will be fellowshipping in person for
That's
the
gonna
very
be
first
pretty
time.
cool. That's gonna be nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
looking
definitely.
forward to meeting all the gentlemen. Have spent time with Papa, but everybody else who's going as well. I'm looking forward to sitting down and having a few laughs and doing a few things together as men as a men retreat we should do.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do want to share something real quick with everybody. You're wondering what we're talking about here. There's not a whole lot of intricate details that are going to be shared, but here's a little snippet of something that I shared on my personal Facebook not too long ago, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a glimpse into what Sid and I are talking about here. So here it is. Let me show you guys this.
I mean that ad is pretty fucking badass. I mean, really.
I mean, should I talk to should I talk to some Hollywood studios? I mean, I work for the Paramount Service Desk in a
I
way.
mean,
So I
why
mean,
ain't you
should I
already on the phone?
What? Right? Let me talk to some
I mean,
people, right? Be like,
seriously,
hey, let me do your trailers for you, man. Right?
that
Send
gave
me
me
some clips.
goosebumps just watching it.
It does look like it should. It like it belongs on like a big screen trailer, you know. But yeah,
We
guys, Fire on the Mountain. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be awesome.
it's gonna be big. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a nice time to be able to hang out with people that are like minded, that are not out for individualism or for whatever reason for themselves, but we're coming together as a community of men doing rituals together. So I'm just really looking forward to it. Hello, Morwen. How are you doing?
Hey there, Marwin. What's up? Marwin just came back from the was it the Greensboro
Yep.
ritual for the
She
Highland
was right
ritual?
there behind Papa, flicking him in the ear during the concert.
That's great. I have my first High Lung ritual coming up next week. I will be in Huntsville, Alabama,
I'm
next week
excited
for
for all
my.
you guys. They're coming nowhere near where I'm at. Sadly, nowhere near. I mean, I could have probably made a drive down to where Papa's area is at, but it was like,
Yeah.
well, if I do that, then I got to turn around and do that again in 2 weeks. And yeah,
What's up, Adam? Adam
hey
here
Adam,
is he's a guy here in our local area who we've known each other for a relatively short period of time, but he comes to the Raven Moon Hearth events. Him and his family are really active with helping out the Raven Moon Hearth kindred. I'm excited for it too, Blake. Scald Works. He'll be at the Huntsville ritual, so I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, sir. Got to get a picture with you. But Adam, he comes out to the Raven Moon Hearth events. The show Shadowmoot was just this past weekend, so we got to be reunited there with him and his family, and it's always a good time when Adam's around. So thanks for showing up to the live stream, Adam.
thank you,
But
Adam.
yeah, man, I when I first I think it was like a year or two ago when Highland came to the U.S. the first time, I was like, I've got to go, and I didn't, and I'm like, not making that mistake twice, right? Like when they come back, I'm like, I don't care, within a 500-mile radius. Once if I know enough in advance, then I'll do what I got to do. I'll sell an organ or something. Like I don't
Well,
know whatever I got to do. And this event, this show, about damn near had to, because where we are getting seated, because my wife she's coming too, and she, standing room areas don't do well for her. She likes to have a seated arrangement. So where we got seated, right, is the closest to the stage without getting into like the standing pit area at the venue where they're playing. And I've never spent that much on tickets for an event, for anything. And I'm like, so this is kind of like one of those deals where I may just have to, sell a kidney or something to make up for it. Will we be at the pre-show party at the Meadery in Huntsville? I'm not sure, Blake, on that. I'm going to be working partially that day before we head down, and I still got to figure out lodging and stuff, because what we want to do is we want to kind of get down there and get settled in and have a room and stuff to stay, because we don't want to drive back late and I got to go to work the next day. So I'm gonna take like half a day of work, head down to Huntsville, and figure out lodging and stuff. And I'm not sure if we're gonna hop over to the Meadery. Ravenwood Meadery, I believe is its name. Know some people that run that little spot there. I think it's the Low Mill shopping complex or something. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and so I'm been looking forward to seeing Highland for a good bit now. But yes, they didn't have a date anywhere really respectively close to
I mean, no,
your area. No, not even
sadly,
Chicago. I was surprised. I figured that
yeah, it was nothing. It seemed like it was all like towards the southeast coast area.
Yeah.
A lot of the shows are at down south and towards the east coast, and it's like, fuck, man, that's coming from almost. I'm a state away from Canada. It's just a long drive.
Yeah, that's right. You're just what's up there, Kodiak? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in.
Yep.
Yeah, you're up there in the old Midwest. Do you say "ope" a lot?
No.
You're not. You're not.
I just say fuck a lot. That's the only word I really know well.
You're not that much of a Midwesterner.
No, no, no. Well, I lived a lot of places. I spent probably about 10 years or so off grid in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And
Yeah.
so I lived down in the South for a while, kind of picked up that lingo a bit. And then I just I've always been kind of like a nomad. I've just kind of bounced from one state to another to another. I liked to travel a lot back when I was younger. Then I
Yeah.
gotten, and I was like, I almost spent some time with the family, so I moved back to Indiana for a while, and
Indiana land.
then my father passed away, and then my mom moved to Florida, and I was like, well, this is kind of pointless. So eventually, I'm going to migrate myself more down south.
I'm
thinking more like West Virginia, Tennessee areas where I'm thinking about moving to next.
If I had to pick a place different to live, than where I am now, I would say the higher elevations, the mountains, even like the not the Rockies, but the Smokies, out that area. When you start getting into like Appalachia, I would love it, to be in that area, and I would also love to be like on the opposite end of things, like the Pacific Northwest, that area, because I've lived in the Northeast. That's where I'm from, so I'm used to that. And the Pacific Northwest kind of has a very similar kind of vibe, but it's just on a bigger scale. It's like the trees, the atmosphere, everything is just much larger. Got my theocratic Christian mom to listen to Highland, and she thought it was creepy.
I wish I was a fly on a wall for that one.
I had I forget what event it was for, or if it was even for an event, but I think I remember sharing something on one of my social posts one time, and I was either in like a ritual face paint or I was in some sort of ritual garb or something, and my sister-in-law was like, "You look scary." I'm like, well, just think of it as like Halloween, but like
you should see me when I wake up in the morning. If you think this is scary, wait till I wake
year
up
round. Mary Beth has come to me.
An inner demon mediator, eh? That might be an idea. I might have bring me a traveling band with me. We'll just hit different venues and different states.
Dude, or what if you like did a circuit where you took your video equipment and stuff with you and like broadcasted from like different shows and stuff like that. What about that? That'd be kind of hip.
That would be kind of that would be kind of cool. Too bad. It's too bad. It's not too bad. I mean, I got kids. I got young kids now. So those days of me just hopping in a vehicle and going anywhere anymore, I don't want to. I want to spend my time with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to travel a lot for work too. Mary Beth would help with that. I think you'd have a lot of support with it, man, if you ever decided to take your show on the road,
Oh, that's one of my goals eventually is I would do I want to do some speaking engagement, stuff like that. I thought about doing things like that in the future.
Like public speaking,
public speaking,
motivational.
Maybe, sort of like bringing a traveling bands with you, 2 or 3 acts with me. I'll be the guy who travels with the bands, opening up and introducing the bands. This is Intermedia. This is the bands we got lined up for night. Kind of pump the crowd, kind of like a host during the whole show.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's all sponsored by Inner Demon Media.
We call those hype man.
Yeah, I'll be the hype man. Be like a little. I'll be what's the dude that has the clock around his neck all the time?
Was that
Oh, come on.
Flava Flav.
I'll be like Flava Flav. I'll just be running around with a clock around my big bone necklaces around my neck.
You can't use Flava Flav, so you'd be Tasty Taste. I don't know.
Drip drip.
Drip.
Drip. Just ask Mary Beth; she'll tell you all about it. That's been my like little drip drip.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing in my chat room. Yep.
Okay.
Every once in a while, I'll come out nowhere and throw a GIF out there with some like a sink dripping or a donut glaze dripping. Just a drip drip. I'm old. I dribble, so I just give myself the name drip drip.
So we have to look forward to, right, gentlemen? Right. Well, it ain't the fire hose anymore. It's that leaky faucet.
Yeah. No matter how many times you take the tape to it, you never can seal that little leak.
Duct tape is a save, it saves the day. John's asking, is there any evidence of the Vikings exploring the Middle East? Yeah, I believe so. I believe some of the some archaeological evidence has unearthed certain relics and things as far south um, as like Byzantine. Like you got to think like the Varangian Guard and some of these Scandinavian places that or at least the Scandinavian people had basically become guns for hire or commissioned by
Yeah, yeah.
different
I was going
empires
to say that.
to be like their war bands.
Hmm.
And I can't think of the exact areas, John, but I know that yeah, they did get pretty far south and east.
It wasn't.
Yeah,
It was later on into the history of the Vikings though, before they actually made it to the Middle East. Though it was well after the Ragnar days and all that, and then some
yeah,
of the Vikings transferred over to the Christian side of things. It was even a little bit past that even.
yeah. They they went the other direction early on. You know, they crossed the oceans and they discovered like I'd say discovered, but they like well, who is it? Eric the Red, who discovered Greenland, and then you got Leif Erikson who discovered I say new like the North American like Newfoundland and all that up there well before Columbus ever crash coursed into the Americas. Mike says he's got the same mug as Sid. Nice.
I hope you don't.
You drinking out of the same cup, guys?
Nobody would want this mug right here. Oh, wrong mug. Sorry.
Wrong mug. Not your mug. Shot. The shot in your mug. You know what you get for $19.99? Nothing. Mary
That's
Beth.
true.
You know what you get for $1? You get to watch my videos. Shameless self plug right there. Kodiak says, if I remember correctly, some pagan Vikings fought
You're right.
alongside Catholic knights at the Crusades as mercenaries. Yeah, they were again, like I said, gun for hire, but mercenaries. I mean, they were hired hands.
That's right.
Because they were good at what they could do. You know what I mean? And they were fierce and they were ruthless. And that's that's the one thing about like when people talk about the Vikings, right? And this modern Viking, this and that. I'm like, why would you want to first of all adopt a name to yourself in any context like Viking? They were really shitty people, man. They did terrible things.
I'm so glad you said that, because modern society has glamorized it so much that they don't talk about, a lot of them don't talk about all the shitty things that they've done.
No, they want to like you say romanticize about the whole the bravery and the courage and the exploration and this and that. Yeah, but what did they do when they got to where they were going, man?
Think about that, folks.
They were terrible. They did terrible things. They
think about
dishonorable.
Let's think about these terms. I mean, this is kind of sucky to say, but at the time you could consider them kind of like what's going on in the world today, where they come in, they invade a country, they kind of like what Hamas has done. They kind of go in, invade the country. They didn't care if it was women, children, men. They slaughtered them all.
I had people ask me about that situation, and I try to stay out of discussions like that when it comes to, because you can't help but just get into politics when you talk about stuff like this. I mean, but the way I see it is I forget, somebody emailed me about that and asked me if there's correlation to what the Vikings, the Scandinavian raiders, call them Vikings, right? What happened during the Viking Age to what's happening with Israel and Palestine. And I'm like, dude, all right,
Yeah,
I don't really want to get into it.
I won't get into it that deep. I was just using it as an example of kind of how the mentality was.
Right. But I would say this, I'm like, you got to think like what's happening now is way different than what was happening then. You know what I mean? Like you got these two states, these two, nations, these two countries, whatever, that have literally been at war for thousands of years. I mean, this ain't nothing new, right? Um, and so it's different than these people who didn't have a whole hell of a lot. Talking about Scandinavian
I
raiders,
think the
they didn't
biggest
have a whole hell of a lot,
difference.
so they decided to leave and go find other things and take things that weren't theirs to try to make a better life for themselves. Nefariously, just dastardly deeds, things that they did that were just terrible. But it was for a different purpose.
I think the biggest difference between the two from then and now, I would say now it's more of like you said earlier, just moments ago, it's a religious war. So it's to the next. It's at another level than what they were doing back then. They was doing what they did back then to survive, to thrive, to make better lives, like you said, better lives. At least what's going on now is way different than what it was back then.
Yeah. Codex says the Vikings did a lot of atrocities, but they had tribal governments, primitive technology compared to Christian Europe. Not a lot of arable land. Again, it was. If you try to farm and do anything in especially in the far north, try growing anything in Iceland. It's an arid wasteland. You know what I mean? So yeah, we settle here like the Norwegians. They founded Iceland, and they like because we're sick of the Christian stuff that's going on here, so let's go to Iceland. But then they're like, well, this doesn't really work so well, so let's go other places. Let's figure other things out. I mean, it is what it is. Jan King is there's a runic version in a church in Ravenna. The equivalent to Tolvard was here. So a lot of the rune stones and a lot of runic inscriptions in Europe, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, they really were just monuments to commemorate people. Nothing magical, nothing esoteric, nothing about them. They were monuments. They were raised, and runes were carved in them to commemorate someone or someones that were important. And I got to thinking about this, and I wanted to go into like a bit of a deep dive. And I don't think, if you were to Google this, you might get an immediate answer. But I was going to put this out here. Tombstones, gravestones that have inscriptions of a person's name, their birth, their death, and maybe a phrase or something like that. I wonder, and I would like to do more research on this, but I wonder if the origin of the tombstone that we know of today as being the grave marker of where a person's remains are laid to rest, if there's any connection or correlation to runestones, because again, they weren't necessarily erected at a grave site, but the idea of erecting a stone, putting a stone up, and carving a commemorative something, right? So and so was here. This is in memory of so and so. It's very similar to what grave tombstones are, right? It puts a person's name, when they were born, when they died. I had that thought the other day, and I wondered if there's any maybe connection or correlation between
I guess I guess
runestones
that
and
would
tombstones.
depend on the person who is doing the gravestones, right? I mean, if you put that magical intent into a gravestone for a loved one, it would be the kind of the same vibe as if you was creating your own runestones. I mean, if you're putting that magical intent in behind it, I'm sure it could be, but I could definitely see the similarities.
Right, because what I'm saying is like that there might be some runic inscriptions that have like a magical charm or something inscribed onto it, but for the most part, they were really
Just letters.
yeah, they were a commemorative piece.
Mm-hmm.
They were commemorating someone or some people's name, right? Jan King says that the Romans did it first. Well, the Romans were pagans too, and the thing about what's interesting is runestone or burial mound. Well, again, the burial mounds were where the dead were kept. Like, that was the custom. That was the way to lay people to rest. There were immolations in some examples, like chieftains and people of a higher status might have had their remains immolated, burned, right there. But for the most part, they were buried in grave mounds, in burial mounds, similarly to what we see here in North America, right? Native American burial mounds. Yeah, or a plaque, you know. But like the whole magical aspect of it, you know, there's not a whole lot of that. Like there are some rune stones that have yeah, magical charms or something added to them. You see that more, I think, on decorative pieces like bracteates and things of that nature. But it definitely exists. Speaking of runes and rune stones, I do just want to mention something real quick to the folks that are watching and listening. The Midgard Musings Facebook page just today reached 20,000 followers. Thank you, and I appreciate that. And that does like blows my mind because it was like, what was it, like a month or two ago where I was
You
like
just cracked
out
15, yeah. You just
we got
cracked
like
15.
10,000, and I'm like, here we are, you know, a couple of months later, and we broke 20. And I made a post on the Facebook page when we were sitting at around between 12 and 15,000 followers. I was like, when we break 20,000 followers, I'm going to share with you guys, because I had shared a post and I was like, any Tolkien fans, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, right? J.R.R. Tolkien, any Tolkien fans out there? What's up there, Sigan? Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Good to see you. Yes, thank you, Marwin. Jealous of what, Scaldic Works? But yeah, 20,000 followers. Sounds big, right? Sounds great. Like to think that there are 20,000 accounts or people that have decided to click a button that says, I want to follow what this person does, you know? But going back to it, right? I said, if there are any Tolkien fans out here, I'm curious because I'm going to be making something that you might find interesting. And I left it at that. And then on that post, I shared some hints about what it could be. And then finally, I commented on that post and I said, you know, when this page reaches 20,000 subscribers, I'm going to drop a hint. Now, so for those of you that are watching on the live stream here and on YouTube, have about 50 Scaldic Works. Keep it up, man. I mean, that's 50.
Don't give up.
That's you know, and the numbers again, they sound big, and I'm not diminishing myself or anybody's efforts. Just keep it up. You know, just be consistent, be dedicated to what you want to do, and you'll get there, man.
Absolutely.
You will. Just drive hard, man. Just keep at it. Hate to admit, wasn't one of the Facebook followers. Don't use Facebook. That's okay, Michael. But you're here. You're subscribed to the channel. That means a lot too. I think as of today, the YouTube channel is sitting at somewhere close to around 5,700 subscribers. You know, I mean, so it's great. And I wanted to share with all of you today the hint, or not just the hint, but the reveal of what that thing is that I'm creating that I mentioned in that post where I said, hey, you know, are there any Tolkien fans here? Because I'm going to be making something that I think you guys might be interested in if you're a Tolkien fan, right? So in celebration of 20,000 of 20,000 subscribers, 20,000 followers, I am going to share with you what that is. So it's not fully completed yet. There are still some fine tuning of things that need to be done. But here it is, guys. This is the thing that I asked you. If you were a Tolkien fan, you might want to keep your eyes peeled. I'll be sharing this across my socials probably tomorrow. But here it is.
Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day, to find our long forgotten gold. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in
I like it. I like it, sir.
I appreciate that. And
I'm a big Lord of the Rings. I'm like huge into the movies and the books. Just huge.
so did that video, did that little clip ring a bell to you at all, Sid? You're a fan of the books, you're a fan of the movies.
It's
Is it?
no, it doesn't.
Thank you, Jim, by the way. Jim says, congrats. Thank you. One of many. Don't want them in real life. That would be creepy, right? Scholarly Works. I mean, if you had 20,000 people showing up at your door, that'd be something else.
It's creepy enough having one of them show up at your door.
Right?
Hi, Sid. Hi, Sid. Like, who the hell are you?
Jen
I've
Kim
had
says,
it happen. I've had a fan of the show show up at my. I'm at
your
work and
house.
yeah, that's at my house. I've come off of work, come
Dude.
home. It was on my birthday, as a matter of fact. That's why I remembered so well. But yeah, I came home and there was a van full of people in there, and just people
Man.
that watch the show. And I'm like, who are you? Who are you people?
That is creepy. What's up, Sleuth Intuition? I was recently a guest on their show. Thank you for hopping in and saying hi. Good to see you as well. Talking movies. It's giving Hobbit vibes, Morwin. Well, you are correct, because that audio that you heard
It was
is
the dwarfs.
is the Misty Mountain song
Yep.
that the dwarves sing in at Bag End. Thank you, Jasmine. Never seen Lord of the Rings, Mary Beth. How do I ban people from here? Uh, you've got an assignment, Mary
Poor
Beth.
Mary Beth. Poor Mary
You've
Beth.
got an assignment, all in good fun.
You got
right?
homework. Well,
Slightly
to be fair, if you're not a fan of him, sitting down and watching the first film when it comes out is a bit slow. And
Yeah.
I can remember when I went to go watch the first film at the theater. I recommended never watching a movie at the theater. That's for sure. That's one of those movies you sit at home at the time you're on your VHS tape and watching it in your VHR player. But I can remember watching that movie at the theater, and my dad wanted to go. We wanted to watch one movie, but it was sold out, so we went to decide to watch the first one. And I can remember looking over and seeing him. He was just dead asleep, snoring. Like,
Yeah.
Pops, the movie, huh? What?
Watch the movie now. No, so yeah, I will say that as a Tolkien fan, right, having read The Hobbit, I first read The Hobbit. You remember that 1975 or 73 animated
Yes.
movie of The Hobbit? Remember that? So after I saw that, I remember renting that. I'm going to date myself just a little bit. I rented that VHS from the library. That's how I first saw that movie.
Really?
VHS, and I rented it from the library.
It was way later on for me in life watching. When I was back then, I was more into like the cartoons of like Heavy Metal. You remember that cartoon Heavy Metal?
Yep.
I was in
adult graphic, no, or yeah, like the.
I'm a little bit older than you though, aren't I? I'm 50.
Just a tad.
So yeah,
Just a dad.
My younger years were a little bit different. Growing up in the '80s with my cartoons, I was all about the adult cartoons.
Yeah.
Cartoon titties.
I mean, Heavy Metal, dude. Like that was like I remember as a kid, like going into some like comic book stores and thinking that I was being naughty by looking at the Heavy Metal comics or the
my dad was buying them for me.
That. You know what I'm saying? But dude, you could back then. Like you could go into like in the '90s and stuff. Like it was just like that was shit on the shelves, man. Like they didn't really care.
They didn't. There was none of these regulations. And look, Mary Moran had it on VHS.
Yes. So knowing that, right, and going into, let me get caught up on some of the comments. Going to get banned by Jesse. No, never seen The Hobbit either. All right. So we need to have an intervention. I'm just going to say we need to figure some shit out about this here, y'all.
We have to do a movie party on Netflix or something and torture her through all 6 of the movies. She'll be banging her head against the wall.
Yeah.
12
so
hours later.
Even though Peter Jackson had his hand in the Hobbit films, the Lord of the Rings trilogy was way better. There was a lot of poetic license taken. What did John say here? Read the Silmarillion. Thank you, John. I got somebody here in my corner. The Silmarillion is like if you've ever read the Bible and you made it through like Kings, Chronicles, all that like genealogical shit. It's that kind of a tedious read. The Silmarillion is. It's very tedious. There is no fucking way possible that I think anybody could put the Silmarillion into film. It's too intricate.
Aren't they
You'd
doing
ruin
that?
it. So Amazon Prime is doing this
No,
Rings of
but I
Power
think they're doing like a 3-part series for this movies.
for the Silmarillion,
Yep.
dude.
And how well it's going to turn out, I don't know, but I'm going to at least.
I
give it-
don't know,
give it a
man.
try.
I don't see how, man. Like if you've never read the Silmarillion, you've read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings? Did you read the Silmarillion?
No, I didn't.
Okay. It goes way deeper than anything of interest that makes stuff that Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit that makes it fun for film. Like the Silmarillion is just, I mean, I just don't know how they could do it successfully. You know, have a watch party. You'll fall asleep, Mary Beth. Well, we'll do it early.
Yeah, we'll do it real early.
We'll do it early for you. You do have so many Hobbit audiobooks. Oh, great. So if those of you, Siggins just mentioned that if you're the audiobook type, right, and you don't like to read a book, you've got the audiobooks. And I think Andy Serkis, who is the actor who portrays Gollum in the films, he, I think, does an audiobook reading of The Lord of the Rings. Cannot be a movie; it would have to be a show. If you're talking about Silmarillion, again, you couldn't do the Silmarillion justice in 3 movies, even if they were like 4 hours long each. You would have to create like a multiple season series to do it any justice, and you'd have to have somebody. And here's the problem with it, you know, you've got all of these like who owns what, like the Tolkien estate owns the rights to this thing, that, the other. That's why the Rings of Power has become such a debacle.
I didn't think it was that bad, to be fair.
I mean, I didn't think it was bad from an entertainment aspect. I think that, again, they took a lot of poetic license. They because they couldn't like use certain names because of the Tolkien estate owning the rights to certain things. Are the drinks half off at the watch party? It's BYOB, my guy.
Well, no, I'll throw in some for all you pansies out there. I'll throw in some Bud Light for you.
Hell yeah! Here's Murfreesboro Music Scene. That's my wife Vanessa tuning in and watching.
Hello.
But yeah, so like going back to the video that I shared, right? And we're talking about the Lord of the Rings. That box, it says Baruch Khazad I Menu, and that's Kuzdul. It's the language that the dwarves speak, that Tolkien created. It's the dwarvish language. And Baruch Khazad I Menu translates to the axes of the dwarves are upon you. It's like a battle cry. It's a war cry, right? And in that box are Kirith runes. So in the stories and in stuff, you're gonna see rune symbols carved and shown different areas. And the Kirith runes are the runic alphabet that Tolkien created for the spoken language Kuzdul of the dwarves. And their characters are obviously influenced by the Germanic runic characters. There's symbols that look like Anglo-Saxon runes. There's symbols that look like Elder Futhark runes, and then there's stuff that's, just purely made up. But they're all inspired from those Germanic runic characters. And so basically, what I said was like that runic set, that box, that whole kit is going to be up for sale soon. So I'll be sharing that. I'm not just sharing it to be like, hey, look what I did, guys. Like, this is cool. No. If you're a Tolkien fan,
you all better jump on it before I do.
It's going to be, when I finish it, like when it's all said and done, there's still some stuff that I want to put on the box, and I want to stain it, and I want to, make it nice looking, right? Now you have the urge to go and listen to Windrose now. Dude, diggy, diggy hole. Am I right? I am a dwarf and I'm digging a hole. They're the ones that made that song so famous, or infamous. But yes, guys, that box of runes, that box of Kirith runes, and there's like, I forget how many, there's like 37 runic characters in the Kirith runic system. It's going to be for sale. So when it's done, I'll be sharing it on all my platforms so that you guys,
Get
if you're
your
a fan,
debit
you wanna
cards
get it.
ready, yo. Because if you
Yeah.
ain't getting it, I'm getting it, yo.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeet.
Sid's like that, man. He's like that guy that's just slapping that money on the table. You know, that debit card on the table. He's, oh, what is that? Oh, you know.
I got you. Yeet.
John says that he thinks you need to read The Hobbit and all the Lord of the Rings before you read the Silmarillion. I would agree with that. If you have no baseline to go off of and you want to start with the Silmarillion, you're gonna get bored and hate anything to do with Tolkien lore. It's such a
That's
tedious
probably
read.
why I didn't fucking read it. I started it, and I got about a chapter into it, and I was like, man, and then I just couldn't do it. And a lot of the reasons why is because when I read the books, I was always in jail.
Oh, you had the
We had
had access to the
libraries.
books.
We had at libraries in jail in the red block.
Red Block, man.
We had
Which,
all the Lord of the Rings books and Cell Block C.
Which facility, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, which one? Which one? The other question is which ones I haven't been to.
This is Illinois, though, right, or Indiana?
And Indiana, let me see, Indiana, Michigan.
Dude, man, I used to
Tennessee?
I used to transport extradition. I was an extradition agent, so I would transport people, you know, all over the place. And Michigan, I brought more people back to Michigan. I made a joke about this. I'm like, Michigan, you need to do better. You're nothing but a bunch of deadbeat dads, because I can't tell you how many people I brought back to Michigan for failure to pay child support and anything like that, man. People would just like,
Mine was like
they
silly
bounced.
shit.
They left Michigan, and then it was like 80% of the people I brought back, they were all back on child support.
I got arrested for like a time before for like in Wendy's. I got up on top of the counter at Wendy's, and there was a Bee Gees song playing. Or was it Donna Summers? I think it was Donna Summers, and it was playing overhead. So I was like, you know what? Watch this. I'm going to jump on top of the counter and I'm going to dance. And as I'm dancing, I'm going to strip. And by the time I got
Sir,
down,
this is a Wendy's.
by the time that I got about to my close to my underwear, and then that's when I got nose tackled by a police officer. But the fucking Wendy's employees were fucking doing it too.
You just turned it up at Wendy's, man. They're like, what do you want on that Baconator? How about this?
How about this
Dang.
how about some special Sid sauce on that burger?
Special Sid sauce. You want fries with that? You want fries with that
I
shake?
got some extra get busy sauce for you. As Donna Summers playing in the background. I'm still alive.
Man, that was pure sex, though, back in the day, dude. I mean, it really was.
It was just a few years ago.
Just a few years ago.
I'm joking. It's just been a while. My old ass couldn't get up with a counter now if I didn't have a step stool.
You might could get up there. It would be the getting down part that
I had to have somebody hold their hands down. I'll put my feet on their hands and let's hoist me up.
people are like, get down before you fall down. Old.
I'd rappel down off the counter. I'd put a harness and rappel rope to get down. But I'll get there eventually. It's only 3 feet and I need a rappel system. Go
Yeah,
figure.
you know, and that actually talking about Lord of the Rings and people that haven't watched it or heard it, that has given me an idea.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Middle
I
of the
just thought
show
of it.
idea.
Middle of the show idea. What do you guys think of like a live reading of the book or the books?
I've been really getting into that. I've been enjoying this lately. I've been kind of wanting to transition a little bit, be creative because I get bored, and I thought about doing book readings or short
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah, because I'm the type of guy, that I love to.
Great idea.
Like when I read, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Sid. Like when I think back on when I first saw and read The Hobbit, I read The Hobbit when I was a kid to my sister, and she's 4 years younger than me, you know, and I remember like um, watching that animated 1973, 74, whenever it came out, version of The Hobbit, right? And I remember reading the book and trying to emulate the voices of the characters from the book or from the film, you know? So like when it was Gollum speaking, I would try to sound like Gollum or whatever they sounded like in the movie, you know? And then of course when it came out later on in Andy Serkis, "Oh, precious," I would read The Lord of the Rings to my sister
And do those
and
voices. I do the
do the
same thing.
voices. Yeah.
I'm the
Like
same way.
Gandalf trying to talk like Gandalf, like this.
I probably got about a half. I got about a dozen different voices or characters that I could do, just characters that I've made up that I
Mhm.
could use those voices of doing like book readings. I thought of this idea as well, and I think it's a brilliant idea. Put some of those
What's
talents to use.
what's your you said you do voices, like impersonation voices, or
Well,
you
just
create up you create
I
your
just
own?
create I create my own.
Can you do impressions?
No, not really. I mean,
No.
uh,
Just sound,
no, sort of a
should
little bit maybe, but it's more of me just creating characters. When I was a kid, I was a small fella, so I got picked on a lot. So one of my defense mechanisms was comedy. You know, making people laugh, doing
yeah.
off the wall things to keep the focus off of me getting shoved in a locker. I would make people laugh, or I would do outrageous, over the top things to make people laugh and deter the idea of bullying me to something else. So I just kind of developed different characters throughout the years that I kind of maybe just different personalities, I guess, could be too.
Hmm.
Different sides of me. But yeah, depending on the mood, I got to be in the mood for it. And if I'm having a good time and in a good mood and I'm in the mood for it, I mean, I could probably slay out a half dozen or more different kind of characters, from a black guy to a gay guy to just
A gay black guy.
a gay black. Well, I can't do that. I'm falling way short of that mark.
Step your game up, my man. Step your game up. What's your favorite character? First of all, Maribeth says, should I watch Harry Potter? Apples and oranges here, my dear. You know, that's a totally different universe. That's a totally different thing.
But yes, you should watch Harry Potter too. It's entertainment.
I mean, you might as well. Might
as well. I tell you
Go
what,
all
I
out.
really enjoy the games.
Yeah, they do have games now, don't they? Or they've had games.
They just had one come out called Harry Potter, the Legacy or something like that.
Yeah.
That was absolutely fucking fun. I had a blast playing it. I didn't want to stop.
Yeah. Michael says the only impression that I've done recently is Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. Morty, Michael, I turned myself into a pickle, Michael.
I grew up with comedians like Sam Kinison, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy. What's the other guy's name? Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor, man, yeah. Dude,
I
remember
these are the comedies, comedies and comedians that I grew up to. That Andrew Dice Clay was another one. There was
holy shit! Now,
so
I
grew up to these. I grew up to these Cheech and Chong. I grew up to them guys. So a lot of my biggest dream was being a comedian. So when people are watching my show, and that's why my show is more of entertainment value. We do throw information out there, and we do bring information and try to be some sort of message through a show. But I try to really have a good time. Robin Williams was another one that I just absolutely loved. Don Rickles was another one I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
But I grew up to these comedians. Jerry Lewis was another one that I loved back in the day. But I that's the element that I like to bring to my show. I like seeing people smile. For me, when I see someone smile, it's telling me that if they're going through something, they're forgetting about it at that moment in time.
Yeah, you got to, man. Like there's so much stuff that gets people down out here nowadays. Skull That Works is the best that he can do is Timmy from South Park. All you can do is like, there you go. I mean, there's Timmy from South Park. Rodney Dangerfield.
Roger Dangerfield was another one.
He was such a man. Chris Farley.
Chris
Um,
Farley. Yep, that's another
you
one.
know,
Sam Kinison was one of my favorites at the time. I like the fact everything about him, the story behind him. You know, he was a pastor, and he left
yeah,
the church, went on to be a comedian, and it was just some of the raunchiest, truthful shit that a comedian, and he brought a funny element to it, but he was speaking the truth every time he was opening his mouth, and it's like
yeah, dude. Him and George Carlin, different
that's
kind
it.
of, different kind of, but he was brutal. He was
George
cut
Carlin
it
was
to you just
brutally
like it is,
honest.
but funny in the same way. I mean, there was an entertainment aspect to George Carlin that was like, I want to laugh, but I also want to be like, no, he's right.
He's
Like,
right, and that's why you're laughing, going, "Damn, man! I thought this the whole time." Jim Carrey's another good one.
yeah.
Some of his early stuff. When I'm talking early stuff, I'm talking about the In Living Color, the TV show, the early stuff.
Yeah.
I loved Ace
He sounded a
Ventura
bit
when it first
kooky in his
came out.
age. Yeah. I especially liked Ace Ventura because like, I'm a big
Cable
metalhead,
guy.
and when Cannibal Corpse is on
Yeah.
there and he's just like, just doing his doing his thing.
Or him coming
With
out of the
Cannibal Corpse
rhino's ass.
stage diving.
Or him coming out of the rhino's ass. I never cried so hard during a movie ever when he came out of that damn rhino's ass.
That poor family watching this animatronic prosthetic whatever rhino giving birth to this
It's
slimy, sweaty,
man.
scrawny white dude.
Great, another great movie, Mary Beth. Man on the Moon was a great.
Man on the Moon. Yeah.
What was the guy's name? He was doing Andy. Oh shit! He was on the TV show Taxi, and he was doing. It was like a biopic type of deal.
Wasn't Danny DeVito you talking about?
No, his name was Andy, and he was the tall. He always spoke like he was
Andy
foreign.
Kaufman. Andy
Andy
Kaufman.
Kaufman. That's it.
Yeah.
He really embodied that role too. I watched a documentary about that movie, and he really just embodied that role. He went deep into his method acting skills and stayed in that role of Andy Kaufman through the whole making of that film.
Mm-hmm. Dude, you talk about method acting. I was watching. I don't know. I get on these like binges every now and then, and for some reason I started binge watching stuff about Heath Ledger.
I just did tonight, dude.
And
About Batman. It was about the Dark Knight film.
Yeah, and he spent what was it like 6 weeks locked up in a hotel
Oh,
room.
dude, it was way longer than that. He spent.
That was the first time. Yeah, he spent like months.
It was almost like a
ultimately.
complete fucking. He spent almost a complete year in isolation. He spent 6 weeks or better in one hotel by himself, and then he spent another few weeks in another hotel in France. Then he came back. He stayed in that character the whole fucking time.
Yeah,
like the whole time.
Yeah, and
it creeped the actor, some of the other actors out. Like
it did.
Michael Caine and the Gyllenhaal lady. It freaked her out.
Yep. You and I must have been watching some of the same stuff because I'm over here like I watched that same clip. About,
I'm a docu-series type of guy. I like watching documentaries and shit, and so I'm big on those.
Yeah. Who was he? Like the way he talked, it emulated a certain other person on an interview, and I can't remember who it was, but like the mannerisms, the inflections of voice and stuff that he captured to portray his version of the Joker was very, it emulated somebody else, and I can't remember.
As much as I love Heath Ledger and his portrayal of the Joker, I still don't think anybody can hold a torch up to Joaquin Phoenix.
Man,
that was a dark fucking film, and it touched on really deep subjects. If you really think about it, mental health.
Yeah, I mean, just. When I saw that, I heard all the reviews.
I felt
it. I'm like, let me watch it myself. But when I watched it, man, I was like, and Joaquin is an interesting character himself. Anyway, he's very
private,
shy, and private. He doesn't like talking about himself, like in some of the interviews and stuff like that. He gets really awkward.
I just watched an interview with him just about that subject, and
Yeah.
he was interviewed by Anderson Cooper, and he said
Yeah.
he didn't like talking about himself.
He walks off in interviews all the time. I mean, like, good
Yep.
luck trying to get him on like an episode of 60 Minutes or anything. But Michael has an interesting question. Sorry to derail here a little bit. What was probably the worst interaction you've had at a heathen event? Um, I mean, fortunate. I'm fortunate to say that I haven't had really many negative or problematic things happen interaction wise at a heathen event that
Yeah,
either
you
I've
usually don't get
hosted,
the issues.
co-hosted,
Yeah.
or like I've gone to I went to a P&O pagan night out thing, and it's funny because we call them P&Os here, but it's usually during the day. Um, but they're usually hosted at like a coffee place, like a Dunkin' Donuts, or sometimes they're outside at a park. But they're every 2 weeks, you know. So here in our area, we have these. We call them Murfreesboro P&Os, pagan nights out. And I remember going to one time. I just showed up. Like, it wasn't even a thing that I was hosting, right? But there was just other friends and stuff in the area. And there was this lady there who I don't know her background. I don't remember who she was, if she's ever come back or whatever. But she was talking about um, like certain cultural habits, certain cultural practices and things. And there was another woman there who the things that this one person was talking about were offensive to this other person because this other person actually has cultural lineage that she's part of, like familial, you know, bonds and things that this other person was talking negatively about. And things got heated, man. Like there were kids around, but everything. But these two ladies were going back and forth, throwing daggers at each other verbally. I mean, just profanity and stuff. And it was kind of an awkward position to be in because I'm like, are we gonna you gonna fight? Like, what's going on here? But like this one lady was like, you don't talk about that stuff if you're not that. Like, she just got super defensive, and kind of just put this other person like put them in their place. You know, so I think if in terms of the worst interaction I've had at a heathen event, like, it wasn't particularly heathen. It was there was a mixture of heathens, pagans, you know, eclectic folks, non-religious folks. You know, so I mean, in terms of interactions that I've had, that was kind of awkward. But
I've never had any bad interactions at a pagan event ever.
that's good. Does Sid have a website or a YouTube channel? Yes.
You can check me out on Inner Demon Media right here on Facebook, or you can check us out on YouTube, the same, Inner Demon Media. You can check out all 300 plus of our shows and some of the shenanigans that I've put some of my guests through.
Yeah, so if you go on, John, if you're on Facebook, just Inner Demon Media, you're gonna see Sid's name come up, and you're gonna see his page. But also on YouTube, he's got his YouTube channel. So yeah. Are there any heathen related movies? Yeah.
Quite a few, actually.
So there's a really good movie. You know, guys know who Gerald Butler is.
Butler.
Gerard Butler. Sorry. He's probably most famous for like 300, plays King Leonidas, but he's been in some other good films too. He starred in a movie about Beowulf. So if you just do a search on YouTube, or I don't know if it's on YouTube, I forget where it might be available. I remember watching it one time on Netflix.
The animated Beowulf, the animated one.
No, this is a live action one.
Oh, nice.
The one that you're talking about with like Anthony Hopkins, where it's like kind of CGI.
Yeah.
That's not the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
Gerard Butler did a live acting role where he portrayed Beowulf. So if you look online for Gerard Butler Beowulf, that's a good heathen movie. And I say heathen because Beowulf is one of the sagas of an Anglo-Saxon saga And there's a lot of stuff contained in that saga that, while it may be, you know, an embellished story of heroes, there are certain things about it that that reflect and talk about certain heathen practices. So much of what we know about how Sumbul is conducted comes from the Beowulf saga. Another one was the most recent one was who was it? The Skarsgård, one of the Skarsgård brothers.
Oh yeah, the Northman.
Yes.
The Northman's good.
Chef's Kiss. Chef's Kiss.
Another good series is The Last Kingdom on Netflix.
Yep.
That's another good one. You can check that one out for sure. That's like 5 seasons. And the 5 Kingdoms is good too. So be sure to check. There's like 5 seasons of The Last Kingdom, and then there's a finale, but they turned the finale into a movie, which is the 5 Kingdoms, the Fall of the 5 Kingdoms, or something like that.
I like The Last Kingdom a lot better than I liked Vikings. And
I liked Vikings.
Barbarian was another good one. That one actually goes into Arminius, and who was a he ended up becoming Roman, but he was born in the Cherusci tribe of the one of the ancient Germanic tribes, the Cherusci. So Barbarian used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it
still is.
but
it's
that's
Netflix.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good one. Barbarian, the Northman, The Last Kingdom.
Actually, Netflix has got a lot of pagan-related like miniseries or movies. So I advise just to kind of get on Netflix itself. I'd say Netflix has got a lot, probably more than anybody else does.
Good to know. I'm gonna have to catch up because I used to love The Last Kingdom. I watched the first 2 seasons and I thought that was really well put together.
Really phenomenal. I mean, in comparison to like say Vikings, I much preferred watching The Last Kingdom over the Vikings.
Yeah, they seem to. I mean, even though it was an entertainment aspect of things, they seem to kind of hold more importance to historical accuracy than History Channel did with
and
Vikings.
It wasn't. Yeah, that you're right. They did. They kept closer to the lore of Norse paganism than what the first couple of seasons of Vikings they did. Then they kind of become more CGI and this and that, and it's kind of like.
Well, just the way that they embellish the
time
sagas.
jumps, the time jumps and stuff like that just didn't work out.
Ragnar never invaded Paris. Like, why was he ever there? Like, no, like that was never. That's not historically accurate. Why you would put him at that time frame of things is.
But it has its purpose, and it's brought a lot of people to explore this path. So I got to give it props as well for even just introducing people to heathenry.
True. Kodiak says they just offered some walnuts to Odin, Thor, and Fenrir at my outdoor altar. My mom doesn't know it's an altar. Very nice. Hello, Robert.
Hello, Robert.
Where you show up there. If I missed you, I apologize. Mary Beth says, way to learn some of the heathen lifestyles.
YouTube.
Don't know much about it. Way to learn. Be careful though. I mean, I'm just gonna say, like, there's as a YouTuber, right? As somebody, as a heathen on YouTube, you can learn a lot, and not everything that you learn is gonna be good.
But you'll know by watching these people that you're trying to learn. Take for example, watch his show. Go back to some of his past episodes of Midgard Musing. There's a lot of important information in there that you'll definitely learn from. But you'll know when you watch these people, you'll know by mannerisms and how they act and how they're trying to teach people. There's just watching people, especially on YouTube, and just watching their mannerisms of how they want to teach somebody. You're not out there to be taught, first of all, folks. This is free information. Just like Jesse don't consider himself a teacher. He's just here to help everybody guide people in the right direction or guide people in what they
I'm learning.
Let them find them out themselves.
And that's the thing is that so if I had to recommend, as far as like content on social media, and I won't mention me because I won't do that. But thank you, Sid, for the
plug.
There.
You're welcome, sir.
Ocean Keltoy. If you search Ocean Keltoy on YouTube, He's a historical reconstructionist type heathen, but he's also very approachable in the methods of which he shares information. Very, very knowledgeable. So Ocean Keltoy, Arith Herger, interestingly enough, he is, I believe, of Portuguese descent, but he's got some academic knowledge behind him when it comes to archaeological finds and things like that. And a lot of his content is very focused on the archaeological and animistic side of Norse heathenry, Norse paganism. So Ari Thurger is a good source, I think, for learning the spirituality side of Northern European beliefs, Northern European pre-Christian beliefs, Iron Age, Scandinavia, that sort of thing. Nordic animism. He's got, I believe his name is Rune Rasmussen. I think he's Danish, or Norwegian, I forget. But he's got a YouTube channel, so Nordic animism has some really good content out there as well. Eric Wordweaver Shervin. If you guys don't know who the Eric Shervin is, if you go on YouTube and you search The Raven's Call, he hasn't done a lot of content recently, but he's got a back catalog of really good stuff. Matter of fact, the reason why I started Midgard Musings and the reason why a lot of what I do is what it is today started with me finding Eric's channel years and years ago. So he's based out of East Texas. He's in the Tyler, Texas area, but and he's got his tribe, but he's put out a lot of good content for heathens, and for people just curious. So if you go to the YouTube and you go to the Raven's Call, Norse Magic and Beliefs is another good one. Scalded Works, I believe. I can't remember his name, but Norse Magic and Beliefs. I think he's Norwegian himself. Has a lot of good information, unbiased and good, factually accurate information.
I'll throw a couple out there myself. Look up Three Pagans and a Cat. Check that podcast out as well. It's a father, mother, and their daughter. They do a podcast together, but they touch base on a lot of not just one certain belief, but they touch base on a lot of just pagan beliefs in general. But the way they go about explaining it's really relatable. And Down in the Crossroads is another good podcast to check out as well.
Okay.
For anybody out there interested.
Talking about like people that do things together on YouTube, the Northwoods Kindred. You go on YouTube and you search the Northwoods Kindred. They are based out of the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, I think somewhere out there in that area, maybe California, Northern California, something like that. I like what they do, and I like the degree of the content that they share. It doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't breach any sort of private type stuff, but it shares enough of their practices that could help inspire other people in their pursuit of Northern European practices. Maybe both of you can share some links after the show. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not all of the ones that I've shared. I will definitely go back in the comments to share some of the things that I mentioned for you. So yes, Mary Beth, if whatever platform you're watching this on, I don't know if it's on Sid's stream or if it's on mine or wherever, but I will definitely go back to mine and share some things that I've mentioned throughout this live stream for sure. Michael does a lot of driving for the job and
you're welcome,
download
Michael.
a podcast. Yeah, Michael's great, man. Like he's one of my patron supporters on Patreon. So thank you, Michael, for being a patron on Patreon.
You the man, Michael.
He also listens to the podcast too when he's out and about, and he shares.
I'm a big podcast guy. I like podcasts. I listen to podcasts a lot. Do
you have a favorite one right now that's like kind of speaking to you, or what's one of your favorites?
I mean, it's nothing spiritual, but yeah, I've been digging one. It's Jason and Travis Kelce, the two brothers that play football, one for the Eagles and one for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have a podcast that's really actually fun to listen to be fair. That's if you're a football fan, but not the whole show is really, topic isn't always just football. There's various things they talk about, but just the energy between the two brothers is it's fun to listen to, and it's fun to watch.
I like
The show's called New Heights. If anybody's interested in checking it out, it's called New Heights with Jason and Travis Kelsey.
New Heights. I like, I don't listen to him like flat out, straight out a lot of times, but I like Theo Vaughn. This past weekend, Theo Vaughn, he's a comedian too, but he has a podcast called This Past Weekend. But he's like this fucking he's so witty. You know what I mean? Like he'll be like just talking about anything, man. And it's like, I don't know if you ever listen to him or know who I'm talking about, but he's from Louisiana and he's got this mullet.
Oh yeah. I know you're talking
He calls
about.
himself the Rat King. He goes by the Rat King.
That dude is great.
But like just some of the things that he talks about, man. He like that one. There was this one podcast where he was like, I forget if it was. I think he was on the Joe Rogan Experience. I think this thing that I'm mentioning right now was on a Joe Rogan podcast. But he's talking about like, oh yeah, man, we had this kid, and his name's like, I don't know, like Lyle or something, just whatever. But his dad was like an Elvis impersonator, and he made him a shirt made out of wood. And he's like, and it's just like, wait a minute, hold on, an actual shirt made out of wood. He's like, oh yeah, man, it was pretty stiff. He's like, so did he wear it? He's like, oh yeah, he wore it. It wasn't like textile print of wood on a shirt. It was an actual shirt. It was like just a stiff piece of wood that they would put on this kid. He's like, yeah, his dad was like an Elvis impersonator. And I'm like, this is the most absurd thing that you could possibly come up with. And I'm like, here we are talking about this kid with a shirt made of wood. What's up, Kodiak? Good night to you.
Good night, buddy. Nice meeting you.
But yeah, I'm like, so
I grew up in the time at age we had like the live DJs or shit like that.
Yeah.
Like radio station, you had your special certain times of night. Your DJ would come on playing your type of music. Like some of my idols, that really Howard Stern in his early years was one of my big influences.
One of the pioneers, man.
Well, I'm over the top in what I do sometimes, and I got to reflect on like some of my past shows. I go back and watch, and I'm like, damn. I see that I don't realize I'm doing it, but I was like, damn, I realize. I look at it now and go, man, there's a lot of similarities in what he did in his early days and what I'm doing. Just over the top stuff.
Yeah.
Wolfman Jack. Wolfman Jack.
Headbangers Ball. Like, let's go.
Ricky Rackman.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that was back in the day when
I'm actually friends with Ricky Rackman, and I've been trying desperately to get him on my show. And he's been on this tour lately, so I've been trying to really get him on the show. Cool guy.
I feel like he would do it, man. I feel like he would do it with you. I feel like he would. I feel like it wouldn't be just. I think like it's just like a logistics thing, you know.
It is. That's all it is. He's on a tour right now.
Yeah.
He's doing like this stand up, like it's like a memoir, but he's doing it live in front of an audience. Memoir of his life during when he owned the Cat House and the Headbangers Ball. So it's like him telling his life story tour. And so he's on that right now. But I've tried desperately. I was like, man, come on, dude, just come on. He goes, well, I would, man. But I'm on this tour and I just finding the right time. I don't want to do something out of a hotel.
Well, keep at it, dude. I think you'll get it. I think you'll get it.
Yeah, I will.
What's the most iconic guest you've had on your show, Sid?
The most for me personally, when I became friends with Josie Scott, the former lead singer of Saliva. Saliva was a big band for me back when they came out. Something about that band just really clicked for me, the lyrically wise, vocally, and it was something new. It was a change from the grunge era, because I'm once again I'm old. I've been through the '70s rock, the '80s hair metal era, decades of that, then the grunge, and then I was waiting around because the grunge was getting stale, so I was waiting around for a new sound, something new, something fresh, and then I can remember walking out of my jail cell. And VH1 was on the TV in the main area, sitting area, and here this video of Saliva popped on. It was from their first album, and it was Your Disease.
I was gonna say, was it Click Click Boom
no, it was Your
Your
Disease.
Disease? Yeah.
Your Disease, and I was like, "Fuck, this is really fucking good. High energy, catchy." At the time, you didn't hear a whole lot of bands trying the whole rap and rock thing. I was like, "This is pretty good." And then they kind of started steering away from the rock rap and just started focusing on them singing, and that's when I really become a big fan of them. But being able to become friends with Josie Scott, where he sent my wife birthday messages singing to her, and having him sit down and on a show talking with demons and actually sitting down and talking to him, I was a hot fucking mess. I was like, damn. But yeah, that was my biggest moment, and it
I
was
used
a
to
good
work
show.
with his sister.
Yeah,
I used to work with his sister at the prison that I worked at when I first moved to Tennessee. And he actually used to, at the time, back in the day, go to do like service type stuff. You know what I mean? Like he would go to prisons and he would talk to inmates and things like that. And then for a while, like when he stepped away from the music industry, he actually went back to his hometown area and became a correctional officer. I don't know if you knew that.
yeah,
We haven't talked about it, but yeah,
Yeah,
he used to work. It was like
it
shit. What was it? It was a fucking county out there, Adamsville, Tennessee. It was Selmer, Tennessee. Is it McNairy County?
I think so.
Yeah, he was a correctional officer there for a bit, you know. But Michael, to answer your question, you know, Sid does weekly live streams on Inner Demon Media, right? The Talking with Heathens. Plus, you do other stuff. So why don't you?
I mean, mainly you catch us right now. You can catch me right here on Facebook at Inner Demon Media. We do. I do a couple shows. I have one with Papa Olafson. We do a show called Talking with Heathens. It's kind of more of a loose topic show, entertainment value. We like last week we did like a top 10 horror countdown, and then before that was
a great show.
Top 10 on the folklore monsters. We did that week before that, but we also do shows where we touch on subjects, but we don't dive deep into the study, but we dive deep into the soul. So it's some subjects we talk about, or things that people are going through on an everyday basis. Battle depression. When we talk about that stuff, we openly talk about things like that. But Talking with Heathens is that show, and then my show that I do with Morwin and Nevermore, which is Talking with Demons. That's where I do my band interviews and have a bit more fun with that. But those you can catch on every Wednesday at 8 p.m. here on my page, Inner Demon Media, and you can the Saturdays at 8 p.m. as well. You can check out Talking with Demons. Yes, sir.
Yep. So Michael, you can subscribe to the Inner Demon Media YouTube channel because you stream those.
I stream them on
shows.
Yeah. I mean, they can be watched later on YouTube channel. So if you don't make them, you can always go to the YouTube channel, Inner Demon Media, and watch them there. But we stream every show. There is no recordings. There's nothing. We do this. We're dry humping it. Yeah, we just jump right in and do it live. Technical difficulties, we don't care. We love it.
I think I showed up a couple times to your YouTube live streams, and I'm like, shit. Now I got to move to Facebook because YouTube like kicked you off there for.
I tend to.
Who the fuck knows what?
I tend to violate rules sometimes. Well, for me, it's my shows vary on how I'm feeling, how am I inspired. When a subject is brought up during a show, it's something's happened to me, I say, during the week that's inspired me to create a show. And so when I'm creating this show, I don't like having these restrictions. I want to touch the person that's watching the show. So sometimes there may be a 45-second bit of a footage of something that somebody may own copyrights to. But when I feel inspired, and I don't feel like I should have I don't want the chains that bind me, so to speak, hindering my creativity.
And that's the damn truth of it, man. Is like, as a creator, right, as a personality, as somebody who has a platform or multiple platforms, even, it's like we're fighting with this, you know, we're fighting
We're,
with the algorithm. We're
we're fighting
fighting
with everything. We're fighting
with
with
the
everything. It's a
community
constant
standards.
battle.
We're fighting with it exactly. It's like an uphill battle. It's like I just want to be able to be creative and speak to people in ways that they want to be spoken to and want to interact with and stuff like that. And I don't want to have to deal with this, overarching, like,
Censorship is a bitch.
yeah, yeah,
John, you're
yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like,
I've
yeah,
learned
exactly. It's
I've
censorship.
learned a few ways to worm myself around it, but
There's ways.
there's certain shows will certain bits of video clip or something I use will catch the attention of YouTube or Facebook, and they'll shut it down, or sometimes they'll pause it. But I'm not gonna let that stop my creativity. I have no gain in doing what I'm doing. I don't go seeking any attention. I don't go around asking for anything from anybody. I do what I do solely because I'm feeling inspired, and I feel like, why not share what I'm feeling with other people? Sometimes it may be funny, sometimes it might be serious, sometimes it might be subjects that may be a little sensitive to people. But I, when I feel it, I feel it,
Yeah.
and I just roll with it. And I don't care about the censorship or tell me what this or that. I just do it. I don't need nothing from nobody. I don't need the acknowledgement. I just love
Right.
doing what I do. I enjoy it.
Yeah. It's a funny way. It's a funny thing, to be, in a position to be influential, right? Because that term gets used so nonchalantly now.
It's just a word now,
Oh,
but
I'm on this
I'm an
social media
influencer now
platform.
on
I'm an
Facebook.
influencer. You know what
Like,
I mean?
I turned my page into a business page. Now I'm an influencer. What are
You
you
know?
influencing? What kind of
And
difference
do
are you
you
trying to
even
make?
put any weight to that title, right? Do
That
you just use it? So, again, it's so nonchalant. It's like this whole kinship thing with heathenry, right? And for those of my listeners and viewers and stuff that you know know my stance on kinship titles. First of all, anybody that comments on my stuff or messages me and uses like a familial title, like thanks brother this, thanks brother that. Look, I don't take offense to it, right? And I don't want to overshadow what I'm about to say with this idea that you're wrong for calling me that. But I had a very recent interaction with somebody in person that I want to just talk about real quick, when it comes to that, and it kind of ties into the whole influencer thing, right? Because again, it's such a nonchalant thing. Nobody puts value to what that means. If you're influencing somebody, that's big stuff, right?
it
Same
is.
way with familial titles. So in this, personal interaction that I had with somebody very recently, they looked at me face to face, in person, boots on the ground, you know, and they're like, I consider you a brother. They said this to me. They said, I consider you a brother. Um, I'm like, okay, first of all, why? Because when you say brother to me, right? When you place this familial title, I first of all, that's like a sacred thing to me, and I look at that as like, okay, so now what you're saying is that you are placing some sort of obligation relationship between us, right? I am obligated to you as a brother would be obligated to another brother, right? And if I don't reciprocate in that way, what does this title even mean? Because first of all, I don't know you in the degree that you are knowing. Like you're looking at me through a different lens, right? This person is looking at me as a, hey, he's on this YouTube channel, he's
Oh, I
talking
get.
about all these
I get
things,
it.
and then I'm looking at this person like, first of all, I don't know you really. I've met you in person just this one time. I've talked to you over comments. Why are you wanting to impart this title on me? What do I owe you, and what do you now owe me? Like let's like pump the brakes there, guy. Like let's
There
talk
is a
about this.
fine line that we as content creators and people who do shows like we do. There's a fine line that we must keep a balance, and that was a lesson that I had to teach myself, because I always wanted to be that guy that will be there on the other end every time someone messages. And I learned that I can't be that guy every time. I have to pick, because it's you could very easily get sucked into situations like that where you feel like you're almost an obligation to be part of their lives because they give you a title or give you that name. Hey, brother,
Right.
well, wait a second now. Let's slow up a little bit here and let's think about what you're saying. All right.
Exactly. You know,
We
and
don't
and
know each
and
other. We're friends here on Facebook, but until we meet in person, don't use the title brother. That's putting a family tie to me, and I value that family tie that I create for myself.
right. You know, and I told this guy, I'm like, look, and he explained to me, he's like, because I look at you as like a big brother, you know, somebody that I look up to for information. And I'm like, that's huge. First of all, for anybody to tell me that in person, like I look up to you, I look at you as like this big brother type, and I'm like, whew, that's heavy, man. Like that's heavy. Back to the Future reference, like fucking, that's heavy, you know. And I'm like, but I'm not your brother. Like we don't have a familial kinship obligation to one another. I'm like, I don't know, mentor, like I don't know, something else. Like, because again, I'm like, I'm doing what I'm doing in the capacity that I'm doing it. The content that I put out, like you put out your content, Sid, like I put out my content, right? There's an obligation, there's a feel of an obligation for us to put out content regularly.
That's
You know
it.
what I mean? That
And
doesn't
quality
mean
content.
that doesn't mean that once we meet in person, that now all of a sudden, like, yeah, I'm your brother, man. Like, not for me, guys. And
That's
again, it's if you want to call me that, if you say that in a comment, please don't think that I'm thinking less of you for saying that. Just realize that I don't respond in the same way. I don't say the same thing back to you because I don't know you in that way. You can have this perception of me because again, this is a version of me. You know,
this yeah,
Sid, we're gonna meet.
this is just a portion. This is just a fraction of who we are as individuals. There is 98% more. As I just throw a number out. There's 80% more of us that people don't know about us. There's stuff that goes on behind, let's say, closed doors. We're only allowing you to see what we want you to see. And I know that sounds mean, but but in a sense, we have to protect our energy. We have to protect our sacred space. And our sacred space, for at least for me, is my family and my home. So I only share what I want you guys, what I want people to see, what I feel is, that people won't take to the next level, because people will take something and take it to the next level, and before you know it, it becomes reality for them.
Yeah.
I've been to your house before. Well, how's that? I don't even know you. Well, I've seen your pictures into your home before. Well, that doesn't mean you know me. This means I've showed you something in my home.
Right. You talked earlier about somebody just like randomly showing up to your house.
Yeah,
Hey, like what the hell? What? Like
it's happened to me
hold on a minute
a
now.
couple of times, to be fair. I've been put in really odd situations. And this is earlier when I started doing it. The fan base that I had at that time were just really kind of crazy at that moment. Then I've kind of filtered all those people out of my life and made it more less stressful.
And here we go. Like we're getting into some visceral stuff. Like, hey, I haven't met this person in person, but I've known them for this long, and I think of them
there's a difference
as a brother, right? This is stuff. This is visceral stuff, right? And this is conversational type stuff. So, Sid, I want to kind of solicit rather your feedback on this. Like people like Mary Beth, she's obviously a part of your crew. Your social media crew.
I do feel that there's a difference between someone tuning into your program for a year and just watching your program, and someone investing their time, like Mary Beth. The last 5 years, she invested her time not with the show, but she invested time with building a friendship online. So 5 years, that's an investment, right? That's an investment for a friendship, investment on her part and investment on my part. There's a difference because they're not just somebody who watches a show. This is somebody that's spent time with me in one-on-one conversations, seeing the evolution of what I've done grow. So you can build these bonds and and brother bond, but not at the level that we're referring to, though. But I
Right,
can.
and that's what I'm saying. Like with this guy who I met, right? He's like, I look up to you because I asked him like, why do you want to give me this title of brother?
She knows
Like,
me on a personal
why do you
level.
look at me that way? Like I could talk to this person face to face and be like, you want to say this, but why? Why do you want to call me that? Why not call me something else? Why not call
How
me a
much
mentor?
time
Why
has
not
been
this or that?
invested into the conversations and the friendship? How much have you spent into this chat, so to speak, in a chat room discussing just everyday normal things? Or if you're struggling, you're going see where that's where I have with Mary Beth, where I've gone through stuff and I've had conversations with her where she's got to know me personally and not just the personality.
Yeah. And that's something that happens when you talk to people one on one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's definitely that dynamic that the online personality, the public face of Sid, Inner Demon Media, right? You get a different version when you're talking one on one with people. It's still not the same exact experience of meeting them in person.
Well, to be fair, what you get on camera is really what you get in person.
I feel like that's the case, Sid. I mean, I really feel like when I meet you next month, here in a few weeks, like I'm gonna get just the in flesh, like metal to the meat version of what I get
What you
digitally,
see on
virtually.
camera, what you see in public, what I stuff that I post, that's me. That's just an extension of my personality.
And it's the same thing with me, right? Like I talk this way, I express myself this way. There's not a whole lot of difference between what you get in this format of me talking versus what you get if I was sitting 2 feet in front of you.
No, you'll get a different you'll get a
You know what
semi
I mean?
different
There's very
version of me.
similar.
You
Yeah.
might get a little bit a semi dumbed down version of me during certain shows, but
Yeah. Good night, John. Take care.
That's just me trying to keep a show aflow and not just let it totally get out of control.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
Good night, John. Thanks for showing up, buddy.
Thank you, John. And it's one of those things where, when, and I don't know, Sid, if you ever had that experience where, you meet someone in person and they kind of offload
Yeah.
all of this stuff
Mhm.
with you in that moment. Like, dude, I've been watching your stuff. I've been listening. I've been this and that. I look at you this way, and it's almost just like it's a lot, man. Like it's a lot to process in that
too
moment.
long
And
ago. Not too long ago, I had people, somebody that I become friends with, and they come visit me a few different times, and in person, they stayed at my house. We broke bread together. We hung out. And it was just it was just very weird situation. And it's one of those type when you meet them and just like, oh man.
like it's flattering in a way. And hail and hello to you, Dragon Dancer. Thanks for hopping in late. But we're here with Sid from Inner Demon Media, just
Hey.
streaming live, kind of celebrating 20,000 subscribers or followers on the Midgard Musing Facebook page. But Sid is kind enough to be present here. Inner Demon Media, check him out. He's streaming on his Facebook platforms, but he does have a YouTube channel. So Inner Demon Media, he does regular live streams and stuff.
Live streams. I'll make music videos. I do
Yeah.
a bunch of stuff.
But he is a participant in the upcoming Fire on the Mountain thing, which we alluded to earlier on in the show. Not a whole lot of intricate details that will be shared about the specifics of that. But he's going to be like me and him. Like we're talking here tonight virtually, but me and him are going to be talking face to face before too long. And we're hitting kind of some nerves right now when it comes to interacting with people at the grassroots level when we've established a relationship with those people on the virtual level.
This is this is going to be my first get together with anybody doing any kind of significant ritual work. I grew up in an age where you didn't know where covens or groups or gatherings or kinfolk. You had it, but it was private. You don't have it. Wasn't near as open as it is now. Back when I was starting into witchcraft, you just didn't have it.
So I was curious about that too. Because you've got a little bit of miles under the tires,
A little
with
bit.
respect to me, right? And you've experienced things that I personally haven't experienced when it comes to pagan, non-traditional religious or spiritual practices, you know. And so much of what I've learned, you know, is how closed off things were
It was
before the internet.
it was completely barren. It was completely almost barren. I never encountered a coven or a group of people that came together or practiced anything. So for me in the 80s and 90s when I started practicing witchcraft and stuff like that, it was everything I learned I had to learn via a book, and finding a book was just about impossible. You had to go to a big bookstore like a Barnes and Noble or something like that. That they even have a shot. There was no occult stores or anything like that, like it is now, where you can just go to Amazon and buy a book. You didn't have that option. Every once in a while, you might run across some literature at the library. You'll go, oh shit, here's a book. I'm gonna rent this for a week or two so I can read up on it. But it was a totally different atmosphere back then. And a lot to do with the 80s and what bands were because the music back in the 80s had a theme to them. It was evil, satanic, and so the main
Shock rock, yeah,
it was a lot of that going on in the 80s with bands like Alice Cooper and
right.
Motley Crue and Twisted Sister. So that stigma kind of carried over into, you know, witchcraft and that kind of belief too. But, you know, once again, for me growing up at that age, it wasn't near as there was a stigma, but it was you could kind of see it loosely breaking loose in the 80s and 90s. But nothing like it is now. When I decided to come into the scene and do what I'm doing now, I was in shock. I was just blown away with all the different practices and paths and beliefs. I was just blown away because the only thing I knew was what I taught myself.
It's a huge shift, you know. And I was just looking real quick, man. I'm good to keep going, but we've been going for like an hour and a half. You want to take a quick break and come back and talk a little bit more about it, or?
I can keep me here for a little bit longer, at least another 20 minutes or so.
Okay. How about this? How about we take a quick like stretch break? Because we've been streaming now for like an hour and almost 40 minutes. Let's hit the restroom. Let's fill our drinks. Let's just get some air. Like, let's take a few minutes, two or 3 minutes. You guys can listen and watch. We're gonna still be here streaming. But Sid and I need a break. We need to stand up, stretch our legs. Let's come back and kind of talk about the shift between paganism community in the 80s and 90s and where you kind of come from versus what it is now and today with social media and all the various ways that we can connect with people. So does that sound good?
That sounds good to me.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a couple of minutes. So stick around, listen and watch what I'm going to share with you guys here over the next little bit. And Sid and I will be back to wrap things up for this live stream tonight. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for streaming, watching, listening, commenting. We will be back. Thank you for your support. We'll see you here soon.
2 and 2.
What's up, man? Welcome back.
2 and 2, just like that.
Just like that.
Do you remember who
News
used to
on
do that?
news. Huh?
Do you remember who used to do that? The whole we'll be back in 2 and 2. Game. It was a game show. Game show host.
It sounds so familiar.
I'll be back in 2 and 2. Chuck Woolery from the Love.
Oh yeah.
I'll be back in 2 and 2.
Yes. Nice
Good old
nod
Chuck.
there. Nice nod there. Yeah, absolutely. Michael Thacker, now that we got back here, just says it does beg the question: is the surge of pagan views due to popularity in media / social influence of the
Well,
current
look,
cool thing, or is it more of an interest and ease of discovery
it's.
through the internet? That's a really good.
I think personally, I think from what I'm, like I said, I'm old, and I've seen the height of this whole like Satanism, witchcraft. Well, I wouldn't say the height. You can go way back 100 years for the height, but as far as me and growing up as a kid, I remember it being a real relevant thing in the 80s. You know, the devil, this and that, and then it kind of took a pause in the 90s. But I think during the 90s, there was this slow progression of people, the frame of mind of people it changing a bit. They're not thinking it's so superstitious. The introduction, as many people may hate the word or the religion Wicca, that really helped usher in new people into the pagan path. Whether you follow Wicca or not, it was definitely a stepping stone and opened a lot of doors for a lot of people to step into. It was an easy transition leaving from Christianity and going over and switching over to Wicca. There's a lot of similarities. So it was easy to transition. But yeah, it does. Social influence does make a difference. It has made a difference, I feel.
I think that social media has definitely made it obviously easier. You know,
Yeah.
Everybody has access to the internet now. It ain't quite such an elite thing where you know, you know, like when I was a kid, you know, growing up, you know, only certain people had internet access at their house. You know,
And what was just a rare thing even to have? This goes to the providers
Right.
who provide it everywhere.
Right. You know, and just how accessible it was, you know, monetarily speaking, you know, you had to pay this, that thing, and the other. It's so readily available now. Like every mobile device that you
They even
get a
offer
plan
government
on, you got-
assistance when it comes to having your own internet. They'll even give you free internet. The government will.
Yeah,
Everybody can have it.
exactly. You know, so I think in terms of the surge of pagan interest, you know what I heard or what I saw recently, and I don't have like figures, numbers, statistics, or whatever, but North America, the United States in general, you know, we've really become this nation of, you know, people are abandoning traditional religion.
They're
Christianity.
definitely walking away. A lot of people are walking away more from the "in God we trust" idea in America.
Yeah.
Everything was God based, this and that. People are definitely becoming more open minded, and that's because we're more allowed to be open minded. That the government is not pushing it down our throats as much as they used to. At least from what I remember, it was back in the 80s. It was they're always pushing God this, God that, church this. You had all these evangelists on TV that was in primetime TV. You don't see that. You don't see that kind of stuff anymore on TV. You don't see like, was that guy, that one pastor that went on doing it for years, Franklin, I think, or something like that, or I can't think of his name. It was like up there with like the
We had
Oral
Billy
Roberts.
Graham for
Billy
the like
Graham,
back
Billy
in the
Graham.
60s, man, and all the way through, you know.
You don't see it anymore because I think people are just becoming more open minded, and this country's become more of a little bit more open minded to come to the religion and beliefs. We're not being
Yeah.
told to be scared as much anymore, I guess.
Yeah, and like Dragon Dancer says, you know, that back in the 80s it was the satanic panic, you know.
Well, that's
If you're listening to this music, if you're doing this thing, that, or the other, you're in the
well, it
clutch
wasn't
of the
helping.
devil.
You know, to be honest, the bands that were doing this wasn't helping the cause out. I mean, they was doing everything they possibly could do at the time to urge that whole
be
satanic
edgy.
panic on. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of just feed that
It doesn't help the
whole
cause when you
thing.
got somebody like Blackie Lawless from Was on stage taking bloody raw meat and throwing it out into the audience, or Ozzy Osbourne biting heads off of bats or taking a piss on puppy in a box of puppies in a box. I mean, it doesn't help the cause, but
Yeah, and
people are easy manipulated. They're easy to be, somebody starts something and then it just takes fire, and next thing you know, boom.
that's the funny thing too about music, right? Entertainment in general. You know what I mean? Like the imagery and it's hard to separate the art from the artist. You know what I mean? So you could make the argument that these influential artists, and we're going back to that whole influential title. The thing that you're doing is influencing people. You're using that influence that you have to push or portray a certain aesthetic. And does this thing that you're doing speak to the overall community as a whole? I don't think it does. I don't think it ever really has. But because of how influential those types of things have been, people draw conclusions, right? It's kind of like when we look at certain heathen, uh, imagery, symbols. People want to draw a conclusion or come to a conclusion about things with imagery based off of the popular representation of that imagery. And it's not that. It's what has become popularized, what has become the most visible to people has happened due to negativity a lot of times, right? And I'm speaking specifically on like the heathen, Norse, Germanic, Northern European type stuff, right? Symbology, runes, other symbols, that have been appropriated and misappropriated by other factions and things, right? Like that's what people want to associate it with. Like, oh, because you wear this hammer, because you say this particular thing, because you have this particular aesthetic, you are automatically lumped into this larger collective of shitty people. All the church burnings in Norway associated with the black metal scene. Yeah, like enter Burzum. You know what I mean? Like Varg Vikernes, that fucking idiot. What's
Hello.
up? What's up, Feisty? Just popping in for a few. We're just about wrapping it up here in about 9 minutes or so. We will have been live streaming now for 2 hours. Sid and I.
Damn, 2 hours, really?
I mean,
It's to be fair, it has been an hour.
we got 10 minutes left before it's 2 hours. So
wow, that flew by.
Yeah, but I never experienced the thing that you experienced, Sid, with discovering paganism at a time when information was kind of hard to access. I came into paganism and heathenry at a time where everything was easily accessible.
And when back in my time, Norse paganism wasn't nowhere near as popular as it is now.
Yeah.
So you would never find a group of kindred people like the fallen Norse pagan path back in the 80s and 90s. You would never found anybody. I mean, there was some out there, but a lot of it was witchcraft, witches and covens, and a lot of those wouldn't allow men in it because
the Gardnerian type style of
It has to be. It was if you was going to join anything back then, it was going to be something like the Gardnerian witchcraft in general.
Yeah,
and that's been my thing. I didn't really start getting into Norse paganism until I'm not even as into it as deep as you guys are. Like you, for instance. I mean, you know your stuff. Where I know things, but I that's not been my primary study when it comes to practices.
Yeah, it's been a it's been a and just some of the stuff for my folks that are watching and on YouTube and Facebook. You know, I mean, like, you guys know what I've been dealing with like censorship and being demonetized, and those are two like different things. Like, to be demonetized is one thing, and to be censored is another. But at the same time, you know, like, as a content creator that's trying to share information and share knowledge, right? Like, to be demonetized is kind of it is a form of censorship. I think it is, right? It's one of those ways that's like it's demoralizing, like, because why?
That's right, Dragon. You're right.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything about Norse paganism in the 90s.
No, you couldn't find anything. It's all about witchcraft. Gerald Gardner, Scott Cunningham were a few of my favorite authors at the time. The books that I read that I thought was informative, that helped me on my path. Now my path has gone many different directions since then, but I don't even necessarily know what I would even call myself nowadays. I just call myself a practitioner of magic. It's just I can't put a label on what I do and what I practice anymore. I just kind of value life, and I celebrate that now, and I just take everything that I do in life and try to add a magical component to it.
Do you think that the label of witch, pagan, heathen, animist, this thing, that, the other, whatever label, do you think that labels become inconsequential the more that you invest your time and efforts into pursuing your path? Do you think that the label aspect of things kind of becomes inconsequential and not as important as the actual work?
I yes, because it's an important component, studying and doing the things that you do in that certain path that you choose. Don't get me wrong. You're seeking knowledge, and that's what you're doing. But after you get to the other end, you're going, oh, okay, I see now, and you start seeing different things that it's not as important as you would have thought it would have been in your life, and then you start following different paths. You start seeing different all the similarities. You start seeing all the connections, and how everything starts to intertwine together. Every belief, every religion, every path, all interconnects to one core root. And you start to get this understanding that everything is so intertwined and interconnected that the titles don't mean nothing anymore. You start realizing that it's not the title that's creating all this, it's you. You're starting to understand yourself better by taking these next levels of studying that you do and the path that you walk. But ultimately, you start to understand yourself through this process, and that is where the real magic becomes relevant in your life. The true understanding of what all this kind of means, and once you start understanding that, the labels, they start peeling themselves off like layers of onions. They don't mean much anymore to you. Now it may mean something to someone else, but to you personally, you're like, I don't need this title anymore. Why do I need to categorize myself doing this? But I've done that before.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to, I think, this primal layer of existence, right? Because what's up, Susie? Yes, the depth of understanding, right? So many people, like, my page, right? My channel, Midgard Musings, right? Norse, Germanic, paganism, heathenry, right? Like, that's a label, that's a thing. And, I've gotten a lot of comments from different people over the years and over time, where the things that I'm sharing is like, well, what you're sharing? What does that have to do with heathenry? And I'm like, that's a fair question, because if you want to take heathenry, right, Germanic heathenry, Northern European Teutonic people beliefs, right, pre-Christian Teutonic beliefs, probably a lot of what I share or what I talk about doesn't necessarily carry that label with it. You know what I mean? Am I a heathen? I would consider myself heathen, right? Because the majority of my focus is on Teutonic, Germanic worldviews. But I'm animistic at the same time. I capture and I encapsulate a lot of the animistic side of my ancestry, whether it's Germanic, whether it's Native, whether it's whatever, you know. So again, with the progression of our beliefs, with how we grow as a specimen, as a person, as a thing, as a
Like you
living
said
being,
that
the
specimen.
title kind of becomes inconsequential,
It doesn't
right?
mean there is no importance in it. Once you get to that level of understanding, you start to understand that this title, all this title is doing is pigeonhole me into something that I'm more than.
They have to have, like Skaldic Works is saying, right? Like labels have to exist to describe to others who aren't on that level, to kind of get it, right? To kind of get this
And I
understanding, to kind of,
understand that, and that's part of a beginner's journey is these labels. You have to start with you have to pick something out to start to begin with. You have to
yeah,
pick this book. You have to pick this title of a book. So yeah, I mean there is a title to everything you do when you first come into this, but once you invest your time and your energy and you're reading things that are and you're learning, then that's when you start learning that wow, there's so much more than this, than just one path. And there's more to this than just one thing that I'm reading here. You start experimenting different things. You're going, wow. Like, I mean, I've dived deep into Satanism for a long time as well. I was a born again Christian for a while. I was going to be a youth minister. I have taken part in exorcisms.
really,
I have seen and been through and experienced so much in my life that you start to realize that everything that's going on around you all interconnects, and you don't need all this other extra shit that they're sprinkling on top of it.
yeah.
The true
And that's
power of magic is us, the human being. If it wasn't for us, there wouldn't be no Norse paganism. There wouldn't be no witchcraft, or there'd be no Wicca. There'd be no Christianity. There'd be no God. There'd be no Jesus. We created these things out of our minds and put them in reality.
yeah, it's UPG, unverified personal gnosis, that has eventually become, like, I don't want to say fact, but in a way, like, what is any of this? What is any of this religiosity other than a development of one person at one point in time, their unverified personal gnosis? And they got a group of people who, at that point in time, lined up with what they thought and said, yeah, this is it. And then it became a thing.
That's it.
Right. So what is any of this other than just a development of unverified personal gnosis, UPG? Right.
I
All
love
religion is relevant. It's relevant because
I love that.
it's
Put that up one
relevant
more
because
time.
why? It fits you, right?
Yep.
If your path fits you and it doesn't fit me, who the fuck cares, right? I do what I do because it works for me. Sid does what he does because it works for him. You do what you do because it works for you. Any information that we share is a reflection, partially,
Of
on
personal
our own
experience.
UPG, right? Of our unverified personal gnosis and some of the knowledge and the things that we've accumulated over the years that we want to share. But it doesn't represent the overall and overarching view of any community. It's like, just because I do that this way doesn't mean that everybody else that hails Odin or hails Thor or does any sort of thing like that does it that way. At least it shouldn't. You know what I mean? And I'm just using that as an
I
example.
just love what he said though. The Skaldic Works. All religion is relevant. If everybody in the pagan community had this same frame of mind, there wouldn't be this resentment towards pagans and Christians. And this goes within the pagan community and the Christian community both as well. If everybody can respect the fact that somebody wants to follow God, it's not your place to judge them or point fingers or why are they doing this. Just accept them for who they are at a human level.
And I'm happy for people that find their
Their happiness.
happiness in their religiosity, right? It doesn't have to be what I do or my people do, as long as you find a purpose. and I've said this to my own family that have excommunicated me because of my beliefs, right? I've said this to them, and I'm like, you're devout in your beliefs. You're so hardcore in your beliefs. You're so devoted in your beliefs. Good for you. Works for you. Works for you. You know.
Well, a lot of those people that are the diehards are the ones that are programmed, you know, and
That's
they have
true
to
too.
unprogram. Then some of them have to unprogram themselves, and that sometimes is a difficult task to unprogram everything that you've been told and taught your whole entire life. And that's where the big awakening happens, right? When people finally understand and open their eyes and become more open minded, is when they have their awakenings. Oh my gosh, there is more to this than what I've been told. That for me is the great awakening and spiritual awakening for anybody. When they break those chains that's confined them for so many years of what they've been told, they took the leap forward to break those teachings and what they've been taught, to venture into new things and explore what more is out there.
Yeah. You know, and that's what a lot of people don't achieve.
They don't.
They don't, because it's just the sheeple mentality. Like, they're just following whatever.
Well, there's a lot of work to do into it, and the society that we live in, that we want everything fast, quick, and over and done with. And when it comes to a spiritual awakening, there is some work that needs to be done.
It's dirty work, man.
It's dirty,
It's
dirty work.
dirty work. Like, you're gonna uncover things, and you're gonna reveal things that are unsavory.
That's it.
You know, good thing about a convoluted spiritual path is that it can give you a broadening of your knowledge, and hopefully a respect for where others are on their path. There's so much about that statement that needs to be realized. If you want to just be this follower, like, I don't want to think for myself, I just want to believe whatever has been fed to me, whatever's been told to me. I mean, that's your prerogative. You know what I mean? That's your prerogative. You're free to do whatever you want, however you want to do it. But just realize that just because you think that way doesn't mean that you're the ultimate authority and that you're right and everybody else is wrong. Mary Beth says that they don't believe in any religion, but respect everyone else's.
Oh, there's a key word you said. Put that up there real quick again for me there, Jesse. I like that. There's a key word, two key words I want to. I want to, first part of that statement is I don't believe. Yeah, Mary Beth. I don't believe in any religion. Right there is, you're not supposed to believe in the religion. You're supposed to believe the higher message. So
you know what the definition of religion is? Okay? The textbook definition of religion is a ceremonial, superstitious observance. That's it. Textbook definition of religion is an outward, superficial, superstitious, ceremonial observance. That's not derogatory. That's just fact. It is an outward, superficial, superstitious, ceremonial observance. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently.
It's respect for others is really important. I'm glad she says that in her statement.
Yes, absolutely. Susie says that we're all going to head off on different tangents within our common beliefs because that's the unique experience we each have the right to have, and that's the beauty of it. Yeah, we're not trying to convince or convert or change anyone's perception or ideas. You know, what works for you works for you. Your hall, your call. Respect to Mary Beth's. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Thank you, Susie, for saying that. And then there's the legal aspect, right? Scalded, where it says only use religion for legal purposes. You can leverage that, especially in modern times when it comes to certain things. Like, I need to do, X, Y, Z, and there's a religious exemption for doing or not doing certain things. Don't forget, revered in a sacred space. Sacred space is created and it is established in the ritual aspect, right? Ritual practices set and establish sacred space through different means. But yeah, it's all there, guys. It's, and that's what I love about this whole thing. And we're gonna wrap up the live stream because Sid, you got to get back to your evening. You're way over.
My
what I thought
evening.
you would be.
I'm having too much fun right now. But
Having
yeah,
too much fun? Well, I'm
Yeah.
having too much fun with you, man.
it's been a
I don't
great
want to be
show.
disrespectful of your time, but I also want to be respectful at the same time.
Well, I respect everybody else's time too, as well.
We're rocking and rolling,
Yeah,
2 hours strong,
it's been a good
talking
show.
about some really heavy duty stuff, man. And that's the beauty of it. It's I can talk to Sid, in this manner. He can talk to me, and we can be two polar opposites, right? I have a very defined worldview. My worldview kind of encompasses a arch-heathen Germanic worldview. I have this very particular concept of inner and outer, right? I have this very particular concept of the sacred and the profane. I have this particular concept of this thing, that, or the other, and he has his. You know what I mean? But we're able to come here, we're able to talk about things, and we're able to find commonalities, and we're able to discuss the duality of the human experience.
If you
of religion.
recognize, you can recognize one's path, but until you recognize the person's human path, the human side, and if you can recognize the human side of that person's path, then that's where you start to build bonds, and you where you learn to respect who they are as individuals.
Yeah. Michael Thacker, he's saying it might be a nice podcast episode for next week.
Well,
Sid, I'm
well,
always
I'm
keen
just a
on-
message away, brother.
Yeah,
Oops,
we'll
oops.
make it happen. And I'm glad to hear that kind of feedback because
Thank you,
Sid is
Susie.
obviously a friend. Great show tonight, guys. Thank you, Susie. Susie is in the APC, Asia Pacific region.
Yeah, she's early morning.
Yeah. So this is like
She's like
it's
early morning.
Tasmania. Yeah. So it's
Tasmania,
like
yeah.
it's 9 o'clock Central Time. It's 10 o'clock your time, PM on Friday night, and it's Saturday morning in Tasmania. for
The
Susie.
future.
And here she is speaking to us from the future. Great conversation. Thank you, Dragon
Thank
Dancer.
you, Dragon.
Great show, guys. Mary
Thank you,
Beth.
Mary Beth.
Thank you all
Yeah.
for coming on here. I know. I think it's a good time now for us to wrap it up and let everybody get back to their respective happenings, whatever time.
Thank you
of
for
day,
joining
night,
us show
evening.
tonight.
Yeah, man, and thank you, Sid, for being here and being so engaging, man. This has been a really fun
Thank you, Morwen.
conversation.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Morwen. Thank you,
And,
everybody.
Everybody that I have never met before here through Midgard Musings, it was a pleasure meeting you all. And thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight and letting me converse with you all.
Absolutely. And please be sure, for all of my followers and subscribers and stuff, Inner Demon Media, this guy on your Facebook, on your YouTube, Inner Demon Media. Just put it up there in the searches. You're going to find his face
As
on.
a matter of fact,
Oh my-
you can catch me. You know what? Can I, since we're sharing this together, can I play an ad for this Saturday for a show?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, let me get to the video. Let's see if I can share this. We're doing like a co-op live stream, and they allow me a little bit of freedom to do things. This is the first time me trying this, but I'm going to look and see. But this Saturday, guys, I have a show coming up, Talking with Demons. Morwen, she's inside the chat here. She is my co-host on this show. But this is the ad for this show this Saturday at 2 p.m. Find us on Facebook, Inner Demon Media, or check us out on YouTube. Same, Inner Demon Media. But this is the show. This is the band. And thank you, guys. Thank you once again, Jesse, for letting me be on here and letting me do this little ad.
Absolutely.
Let's see if it works.
Let's see. All right, I'm going to do it.
I don't hear your mic.
Yeah, that was epic, dude. Sorry, I was muted. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna mute myself just in case.
I
But
didn't
that
know
was
what I was
epic.
doing either. I'm glad
That
it
was
worked.
epic. We don't know what we're doing here, guys.
I'm
We're
glad
just
it
shooting
worked.
from the hip. Shooting from the hip was like the Wild West, baby. Susie, thank you. Had to get the time right on
Thank you
Saturday
guys.
night.
Thank you guys for
Calculate
tuning in
Tasmania
tonight.
time. You're awesome, man. All of you are awesome.
Love you
And
guys.
Sid
Thank you
is
so much.
awesome. All of you are awesome. This has been a great live stream. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, and you're here now at the very end of things, right? Here we now are at the end of all things. Samwise Gamgee. Lord of the Rings. Here we are now, Mr. Frodo, at the end of all things. Please subscribe to this channel, Midgard Musings, and subscribe to Sid's channel because he's got some really awesome, cool things going on his platforms. Follow him on Facebook. Follow the Inner Demon Media platform on Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe. Do all the things. Feed that fickle algorithm god that we so ingraciously are
Yeah, right.
having to fucking deal with, right?
Fighting with every day.
Fighting with every day. But you're great, Sid. Thank you for coming on here and being
man. I appreciate it.
here tonight. And thank you all for listening, watching, and being a part of this.
You guys are amazing. Thank you.
As a reminder, the Kirith rune set that I shared earlier in the pod or in the live stream, it will become available for sale. Right, 30 some odd different Kirith runes in a box with a Baruch Kazad menu phrase on the box. Like it's going to be available for sale, and it helps. The purchase of it will help for future things with this channel. But it's for you as a Tolkien fan. So stay tuned for that. That's coming out here on Midgard Musings, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. But Sid, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, brother.
I look forward to having you on future streams, future episodes. We already had Michael that says, this would be a really great podcast episode. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So thank you all for being here tonight or today, wherever you are. Hail to you all. May the gods continue to notice you, and may your ancestors smile upon you. We'll see you around.